Every year, the purpose of this report is to provide Congress and the American people with the Commission's best and honest assessment of competition in the evolving video marketplace. I support this year's report, but I write separately to address the important issue of whether the 70/70 benchmark has been reached. The Commission's determination regarding the 70/70 benchmark has critical policy implications, but at the same time, it's a question of fact. I'd have no hesitation to invoke our authority if the evidence clearly justified that the standard had been breached. A lot of positive initiatives, I think, could grow out of that to promote diversity and badly needed diversity in cable, such as the national baseline PEG requirement, which is especially necessary as PEG requirements are being undermined across the country as a result of the franchising process. Yet it's our job to follow the facts, to find the truth wherever it may lead. Congress didn't ask us to impose the outcome we might prefer solely based on policy goals, no matter how admirable they may be. Congress asked us for an honest assessment. So I'm pleased that the revised version of this report seeks further comment on the important question and compels all cable providers to provide their data under penalty of law within 60 days, and I agree we need to move fast on that. Now, in order to base our decision on facts, commissioners need access to all the facts. Unfortunately, the most important data that we have, the FCC's own numbers, were suppressed from the commissioners until the last minute. I didn't learn until after 7 o'clock last night that the FCC's own 2006 survey, our own survey, found that only 54% of homes passed subscribed to cable. Similarly, the FCC's cable price survey, which we learned about also at the same time last night after 7 o'clock, right before the vote was to be taken this morning, came in at 55.2% penetration. Based on these newly unearthed facts and the conflicting evidence on the record, I'm unable to support a finding that 70% of homes passed subscribe to cable at this time. I'm open to finding more evidence. The data is certainly inconclusive. We see that there's evidence on both sides. If we're truly searching for the truth, though, it's inconceivable that our own data would be cast aside without mention. It was just last year that I called for more rigorous data collection by the FCC. We made all these efforts to try to improve the data collection we do. And yet what happens? We find that this year's own FCC data was suppressed. That casts a long shadow over this endeavor. They tried to hide the ball from their own team. In every previous year, the Video Competition Report included data from the FCC's annual report of cable television systems, which solicits from operators the very data needed to answer the 70/70 test, including subscribership, penetration rates, and the number of channels available, exactly the questions we need. Yet it wasn't until yesterday that it became apparent to me from this data that the survey data from this year was mysteriously redacted from the draft report that we were reviewing. The draft attempted to rely solely on Warren Communications while disregarding a multitude of other sources included in our previous reports. This was especially troubling with respect to our own data from the annual report's FCC Form 325. We go out and we ask these cable companies, what's the data? If they don't give us accurate information, they can go to jail for up to 5 years. And then we take that data and we don't even tell the commissioners? I, as a commissioner of the FCC, can't even get our own data? In fact, when you look at the supporting statement to FCC Form 325, the Commission justifies its request for this information by stating explicitly that it's more appropriate, that it is a more appropriate tool to rely upon than the Warren data that was the sole source of the draft that we received. Let me read to you from the justification that we did when we asked for this data. Basic information concerning cable television system operation is available from commercial sources such as AC Nielsen and Warren Publishing. However, because this information is not subject to the accuracy and specificity requirements applicable to governmental reporting systems, the Commission continues to need the information that FCC Form 325 provides. Interesting. Here we say that the best data is our own. All of a sudden the report just ignores that data entirely in favor of data we said was inferior. Very interesting. While there are always issues with the figures reported to the FCC, we certainly shouldn't just ignore it, act like it doesn't exist. Don't tell the commissioners about it unless they ask. Why should I have to ask for this? Every other year it's been included in the report. Cable operators who report to us on Form 325 must certify their data is true. Cable systems that comprise over 50 million subscribers report to us, or over 75% of the total number of subscribers who report subscriber data to Nielsen and to Warren. Now, what's interesting is I asked the Bureau today for those numbers, and I couldn't get them. I just wanted to know, how many subscribers is this? Because some people say that this is a very small sample. I don't think 50 million people is a small sample. I don't think I've ever seen a survey with 50 million people called a small sample, especially when it's over 75 to 81% of subscribers. Now, it may be that just 10% give us the data, but those are the largest systems, and they comprise over 75% of subscribers who report their data to Warren. This is a large sample by any measure, and something that shouldn't be cast aside. Moreover, the Commission's attempt to rely solely on data from Warren Communications while disregarding a multitude of other sources is very troubling. A thorough and transparent analysis of the available data, both from the FCC and independent sources on cable penetration rates, was sorely missing from the draft of this item. The Commission has in its possession at least 4 sources of cable penetration rates that were cited in every previous report: Warren, Nielsen, Kagan, and, of course, the FCC Form 325. In a blatant contrast to previous reports, no source but Warren was cited in the initial draft, and it's noteworthy that all these sources, except Warren, concluded that the current cable penetration rates are less than 70%. We've got to give careful consideration also to new data added at the last minute to the report just today, supplied by leading consumer advocates finding that penetration rates exceed 70%. I appreciate the effort of these advocates to advance our understanding of the marketplace. Our job of ascertaining the facts was made more difficult because the draft cherry-picked the only data that justified the outcome apparently desired while suppressing other data. I believe it's our obligation to ensure that our decisions are objective and based on the facts, not outcome-driven for political expediency. Much like our media ownership studies, which are outcome-driven to support the media consolidation agenda, there is an attempt to cook the books on this report. Just like what occurred in the media ownership proceeding, where studies were suppressed and others were structured and conducted with the goal of facilitating consolidation, a lack of transparency will undermine the Commission's credibility and the public confidence in the work that we do. I fully support the effort to quickly ask all cable operators for their actual numbers. We have most of them already, of course, but we don't have all of them. We probably should have asked for all of them before. I would have supported that. But let's get it done now. Let's find out if more data will shed light on this, and I think we should pursue that aggressively. If the data comes back that the 70-70 test has been met, I won't hesitate to invoke our authority to take positive measures to enhance diversity. One of the reasons for the embarrassing delay of today's meeting, I just can't believe that we start this meeting at the hour that we do. It's a shameful thing for the Commission. It shows that we're in general disarray and working through these issues, was the effort to push through such an aggressive number of controversial items today without sufficient notice to all commissioners. Short-circuiting Commission procedures shortchanges the American public in the end. This is particularly true given that nothing we're considering today requires immediate action. There are numerous items that would have benefited greatly from more deliberation and more care. This is set against the backdrop of unwinding processes here at the Commission. For example, the lack of notice to commissioners about open meeting dates and items to be considered at these meetings hinders our ability to be able to really consider the substantive proposals and solicit and reflect upon public input. Traditionally, going back many years, items are white copied or identified to commissioners 3 weeks in advance. But today, this meeting itself wasn't even notified to us 3 weeks in advance. Nothing was notified to us 3 weeks in advance. It was only 2.5 weeks notice, and that was even shorter because it included both the Veterans Day holiday, Thanksgiving holidays, and it was truncated by the day that we spent on travel to a field hearing in Seattle, which I might note was called with totally inadequate notice to commissioners and the public. I wasn't even consulted as to my availability for that.